Eddie Albert had a remarkable life, characterized by constant fortitude and great tragedy. Albert was more than just a well-liked actor, though he's most known for his famous part in Green Acres. He persevered in trying to change things, despite both personal and professional setbacks. He is a true hero because of his tenacity, demonstrated by his support of rural America, and his capacity to reinvent himself in later life. As we examine Albert's life in further detail, we'll see how he overcame adversity and led a morally upright life, which won him the respect and admiration of many. Learn about the life of Eddie Albert, a celebrity who persevered in the face of adversity and inspired all of us. The early struggles in Hollywood. Eddie Albert's path to fame in Hollywood wasn't a straightforward one. He was ambitious when he first came to Tinseltown, but he didn't have much else to show for it. Despite his fantastic stage presence, he first had difficulty breaking into the profession and received numerous rejections. Albert was typecast early on, which prevented him from getting essential parts. For years, he starred in several TV series and movies, yet more well-known actors sometimes eclipsed him. Albert, though, never gave up. He knew his potential and kept improving, landing tiny jobs on TV and in the theater. His breakthrough came when he started getting roles that let him show off his range and comedic timing. He received recognition for his dependable acting abilities as his career took off, but not before learning the difficult lesson of tenacity. These formative years helped shape Albert and instilled in him the perseverance to serve him well throughout his career. The Green Acres phenomenon. Despite not being an initial hit, Albert's portrayal of Oliver Wendell Douglas in Green Acres became one of his most memorable roles. The show's initial reception was ambivalent, with some people doubting the bizarre idea of a lawyer from the big city becoming a farmer. However, Green Acres eventually found its audience and became a beloved classic, frequently regarded as one of the best sitcoms ever. Albert's portrayal of a refined, often perplexed figure with impeccable comedic timing made his performance stand out. His portrayal of Oliver, who was frequently frustrated by his wife Lisa's idiosyncrasies and their strange rural lifestyle, became both humorous and realistic. Albert never thought the part would define him so completely, even with the show's enormous popularity. Albert's career was much more dynamic and multi-layered, spanning decades with roles that showcased his enormous variety, even though Green Acres was a crucial milestone. Although he's remembered with fondness for his role as Oliver, his work outside of the program solidified his reputation as a renowned and versatile actor. Personal life and marriage to Margot. The foundation of Albert's personal life was his marriage to Margot, his wife of more than 60 years. Like Albert, Margot is firmly committed to social causes, especially those related to human rights and the environment. Together, they overcame the demands of Hollywood thanks to their mutual passions, which formed a solid basis for their partnership. Their union was everything but the usual glamorous Hollywood love affair. Instead of being influenced by celebrity or the shallowness of the business, Margot and Eddie concentrated on their devotion to one another and shared ideals. During difficult periods in Eddie's career, when he encountered obstacles or public criticism, Margot's influence was particularly significant. She encouraged him to follow his passions outside the Hollywood system and helped keep him grounded. They were clearly in love and respected one another, and their long-lasting relationship served as evidence of the value of stability, family, and a common goal. Their partnership is still inspiring since it demonstrates a unique harmony between celebrity and personal contentment. Fatherhood and his kids' influence. Eddie never lost sight of his responsibility as a father, even though his job frequently required long hours and travel. Edward, his son, and Maria, his daughter, were the objects of his great pride. Albert prioritized his children and taught them the same principles of hard work, dedication, and integrity that shaped his own life despite the difficulties of juggling a well-known career with family obligations. While his daughter Maria found fulfillment in other creative endeavors, his son Edward became a great actor, following in his father's footsteps. As a father, Albert had an incurable impact. He instilled in his kids the value of maintaining one's humility and sense of reality, regardless of one's level of achievement. Love, stability, and a dedication to giving his kids a solid moral basis characterized his family life. Another aspect of Albert's personality that frequently went unnoticed but was essential to his general sense of contentment and happiness was his love for his children. His military service in World War II. In addition to his Hollywood career, Eddie Albert's legacy is shaped by his valiant actions during World War II, when he enrolled in the U.S. Navy and held the position of lieutenant commander in the Pacific Theater, where he carried out duties that were not well known in the entertainment industry. He participated in risky operations and showed courage and leadership that molded his personality. His experiences throughout the war profoundly impacted his outlook on life and instilled in him a resilience that would serve him well. Albert frequently discussed the lessons he had gained during the war, especially how it made him realize how fleeting life is and how crucial it is to stand up for what's right. He attributed his capacity to withstand the highs and lows of his Hollywood career to the war's development of his inner strength. His service is a part of his life that gives his public persona greater depth and in many ways confirms his standing as a hero. The underrated actor. Many reviewers and the general public still considered Eddie Albert relatively underappreciated, even though his career spanned several decades and demonstrated his extraordinary range as an actor. Albert was one of Hollywood's best-kept secrets because he was rarely honored with significant honors despite his roles in movies like Roman Holiday and The Longest Day. Despite his ability to carry a scene with depth and nuance, he was frequently cast as a supporting character rather than the leading man, contributing to his lack of notoriety. Though more well-known actors of the era often eclipsed him, Albert's versatility made him ideal for both tragic and humorous roles. However, his achievements are not diminished by his lack of recognition. That illustrates how complicated his career's been. Albert was never interested in receiving praise. Instead, he concentrated on giving strong performances, which helped him establish a reputation as a dependable, gifted actor who could play any part. The ups and downs of his Hollywood career. There were many highs and lows in Eddie Albert's Hollywood career. Albert struggled to land important roles after Green Acres' success, a common situation for performers whose TV prominence frequently eclipses their film careers. After the TV series concluded, he began to doubt his position in the industry due to Hollywood's erratic behavior. But Albert's flexibility allowed him to remain relevant. He demonstrated adaptability and continued reinventing himself as he transitioned between theater, cinema, and television. His perseverance paid off when he landed parts in movies like The Heartbreak Kid and The Longest Day, where critics praised his performances. Albert's professionalism and willingness to take on any assignment, no matter how big or small, allowed him to maintain a respected position in Hollywood despite losses. Even though there were difficult times in his career, Albert's tenacity was a monument to his character, and his influence on the field has endured. The legacy of Eddie Albert's humanitarian work. Eddie Albert was renowned for his extraordinary dedication to humanitarian causes and enormous contribution to the entertainment business. One of his biggest hobbies was his support of environmentally sustainable practices. In the 1970s, Albert joined the board of Friends of the Earth, an environmental organization, and was actively involved in conservation initiatives. He continued his work by supporting groups like the American Cancer Society and promoting education for kids. Although much of it went unnoticed, Albert worked with several charity organizations and assisted in raising money for many charities in addition to his charitable endeavors. His quiet but impactful activism revealed a side of him that spoke to people outside of his celebrity. Someone whose legacy was based not only on films and television series, but also on his significant contributions to the real world. Albert cemented his reputation as a humanitarian in Hollywood by using his public position to raise awareness of the causes he supported. Eddie's struggle with health issues in later years. Eddie Albert had to deal with serious health issues as he grew older, chief among them being his fight against cancer. Albert persevered through these difficulties, never letting his health problems precede his life or career. He maintained his hectic lifestyle as best he could while fighting the illnesses, continuing to campaign for numerous causes. Many of the public were unaware of the scope of his conflicts until years later because the struggle was private. Albert's capacity to keep moving forward was what made his perseverance so impressive. He didn't turn away from his profession or life. Instead, he confronted his health issues head-on and carried on with his usual zeal and commitment. One of the most distinctive traits was his ability to persevere in the face of difficulty, and his battle with cancer only served to solidify his reputation as a hero further. Many found strength in his ability to contribute to society despite his deteriorating condition. The unspoken impact of Roman Holiday. Eddie Albert's part in Roman Holiday was one of his most important career accomplishments, even though Green Acres solidified his position in popular culture. Albert portrayed a cynical American journalist in the classic 1953 movie, co-starring with Audrey Hepburn. Despite not being as well known as Hepburn, his performance added nuance and compassion to the movie, enhancing the primary plot without taking center stage. Although he didn't receive the significant accolades that many believed he deserved, Albert's nuanced portrayal in the film was highly praised by critics. Albert's contribution was still crucial to its allure because of the movie's popularity and continued standing as a classic. Many moviegoers and historians regard his performance in Roman Holiday as one of the most underappreciated of the 1950s. Albert's performance demonstrated his ability to strike a balance between charm and nuance, and although he wasn't the movie's primary character, his contribution to its emotional depth was crucial. The secret to his longevity in Hollywood. Eddie Albert's acting flexibility significantly affected his ability to stay current in Hollywood for more than 50 years. Albert could easily switch between genres, in contrast to many of his classmates who were typecast. Albert refused to be limited by his parts, which ranged from humorous ones in Green Acres to dramatic ones in movies like The Longest Day. He remained popular because of his readiness to play various parts in theater, television, and films. He also showed his dedication to developing as an artist by never being afraid to reinvent himself when called for. His capacity to adapt was essential to his longevity in a field that frequently fires performers who don't change with the times. Albert was respected by professionals and viewers alike for his ability to push himself in each new role, which kept him in demand throughout his career. His biggest strength were his versatility and tenacity, which enabled him to make a lasting impression on Hollywood. Albert's last years and legacy. Eddie Albert's final years demonstrated his lasting influence in Hollywood and beyond. Even though his acting career slowed down in his latter years, he remained involved in the entertainment industry by supporting causes he believed in and attending events. Albert was not satisfied to sit back and enjoy his success, even in his 80s. While he continued to advocate for important causes such as the environment and children's education, he also took some time to think back on his career. The entertainment industry lamented the loss of an absolute legend when Albert died in 2005, but his impact went beyond his iconic appearances in movies and television. His benevolence, his steadfast support of philanthropic causes, and the dignity with which he handled life's highs and lows are what people remember about him. In addition to his acting career, Eddie Albert's legacy endures because of the innumerable people he impacted via his integrity and humanitarian endeavors. The unlikely friendship with his co-stars. In addition to being a vast career success for Eddie Albert, Green Acres was the starting point for enduring friendships, most notably with Eva Gabor, his co-star. The two had a loving, affectionate relationship off-screen that extended well beyond the storyline. Albert was appreciated by his co-workers because of his innate warmth and sense of humor, and many of them gave him credit for creating a productive work atmosphere on set. His and Gabor's on-screen chemistry demonstrated their friendship, which was a significant factor in the program's success. His co-stars regarded Albert as a loyal buddy, dependable, and supportive. He frequently went above and beyond to ensure that everyone on set felt appreciated and at ease, displaying a side of himself more concerned with real human connection than celebrity. His contemporaries adored him because of his generosity of spirit, and many of them have pleasant memories of the connections they developed while creating Green Acres. The tragic loss of his sister. The loss of Eddie Albert's sister was one of the most painful and personal periods of his life. Albert was deeply scarred by the fact that she died at an early age. Even though he didn't talk about this loss much in public, it had a significant impact on how he saw life and death in his later years. His deep sensitivity and dedication to his family were shaped by the anguish he felt upon her passing. One of the most significant parts of Albert's life was his relationship with his family, and the loss of his sister only strengthened his sense of duty and concern for those he cared about. Her death also served as a reminder of how fleeting life is, which increased his enthusiasm for the causes and individuals he supported. Despite the tragedy, Albert never allowed grief to define him. Instead, he embraced it as a source of fortitude and resiliency that infused his personal and professional lives. His later work in television. Despite Green Acres, Eddie Albert remained a significant force on television. He established himself on shows like Heart to Heart and The Love Boat and made several guest appearances. Albert was no longer the center of attention as a program star, but his presence on TV was still indisputable. He demonstrated his skills were not limited to any role by moving fluidly into parts that highlighted his timeless charm and wit. Through his appearances, fans could see a different side of him, one that demonstrated his ability to handle more dramatic situations and his humorous timing. Both younger viewers who discovered Albert's work and older viewers who recognized him from Green Acres adored him because of his flexibility, which guaranteed his place in television history. His comeback to television reaffirmed that outstanding performers are not characterized by a single program, but rather by their capacity to change with the times. Green Acres and its lasting impact. The conclusion of Green Acres in 1971 was a turning point in Eddie Albert's career, as well as the history of television. The show's legacy has persisted for decades, even though the cancellation left viewers wanting more. Albert's portrayal of the sincere and somewhat awkward lawyer-turned-farmer Oliver Wendell Douglas became synonymous with Green Acres, a peculiar sitcom that broke with tradition. The show became a pop culture sensation due to its unique comedy and timeless appeal. Reruns continue to draw new viewers decades after the show's end, solidifying its legacy on television. Albert's character's eccentricity made him a beloved figure in the sitcom industry, and Green Acres became a role he would always be linked with. Fans still recognized Albert as the sincere city lawyer turned country farmer, despite his moving on to other endeavors, demonstrating the lasting impact of his work. The challenges of aging in Hollywood. For many performers, growing older in Hollywood may be a challenging experience, but Eddie Albert went against the grain. He encountered the difficulties of ageism, which is sometimes common in the field as he became older. Albert stood out among the many actors of his generation who were cast in minor, unimportant parts. He kept getting essential roles because of his vast experience and innate charm, frequently portraying mentors or wise father figures. These parts were anything but one-dimensional, demonstrating that his age did not diminish his capacity to enthrall audiences. Albert's ability to remain current and command the screen shows that talent and perseverance can overcome Hollywood's fixation with the young in a culture that frequently celebrates youth. He remained an active and well-respected force in entertainment throughout his life by choosing jobs that demonstrated his development as an actor and a person rather than blending into the background. The transformation of his public image. Eddie Albert's public persona changed throughout his career to reflect his personal and professional development. Because of his attractive appearance and polished manner, he was frequently chosen as the leading man in his early roles. However, Albert's reputation grew softer as he grew older and gained recognition for his modesty and groundedness. His transformation from haughty to well-respected actor reflected his growing emphasis on his principles. Even after becoming well-known and wealthy, Albert remained genuine, which the public found appealing. This genuineness was evident in his personal life, where he stayed committed to his family and humanitarian initiatives, and in his acting. Audiences eventually came to view him as a man of integrity who had remained loyal to himself despite the temptations of Hollywood stardom, in addition to being a gifted actor. His advocacy for farmers and rural America. Beyond his involvement in Green Acres, Eddie Albert had a deep attachment to farming and rural life. Albert became a vocal supporter of agricultural problems because he grew up on a family farm and was firsthand aware of farmers' hardships. Throughout his career, Albert used his position to draw attention to rural America's concerns, including the preservation of land, equitable compensation for farmers, and the environmental difficulties they confront. He strongly advocated for environmentally friendly farming methods and frequently collaborated with different groups to raise awareness of the farming industry's problems. His support of farmers was a fundamental aspect of his persona that he kept with him off-screen and extended beyond his acting assignments. Albert demonstrated that his heart was as large as his talent by using his fame to make a real-world effect during a period when the media frequently overlooked rural America. His diverse film roles. Eddie Albert's legendary performance on Green Acres will always be remembered, but his film career was much more varied than most people know. Albert was renowned for playing various parts, demonstrating his broad versatility as an actor. His ability to move fluidly between genres was showcased by his roles in psychological thrillers like the Amityville Horror and war epics like The Longest Day. Albert added nuance and complexity to every part, whether he was portraying a villainous character in a horror film or a hero in a military drama. His supporting parts elevated the content and made a lasting effect on viewers, frequently taking center stage. Albert's career was distinguished by his extraordinary versatility and ability to infuse each character he played with honesty and truth, even though he wasn't always the leading man. His filmography continues to be an underappreciated example of his genuine skill. The Final Goodbye. In addition to being a successful actor, Eddie Albert left a legacy that went well beyond the screen when he passed away in 2005. He had encountered numerous personal and professional obstacles throughout his life, but he never wavered in his resolve to lead a purposeful, influential life. Albert's professional life demonstrated his tenacity, while his personal life demonstrated his honesty and dedication to his principles. He continued to be involved in several causes in his later years, including those he had supported all his life. Generations have been inspired and influenced by his work, both in front of the camera and in his support of social change. Albert's legacy reminds us that the real test of a well-lived life is not the number of honors one receives, but rather the difference one makes in the lives of others. For many years to come, his contributions to philanthropy, television, and movies will be remembered. Albert's role in the fight for the environment. Albert supported preserving the environment long before the environmental movement became popular. He got interested in several ecological projects because of his love for wildlife preservation and conservation. He was especially outspoken on the need to protect natural resources and the perils of deforestation. Although his acting profession frequently eclipsed Albert's accomplishments in this field, they were equally important to his legacy. He advocated for improvements that would benefit future generations by using his fame to spread awareness. The fascinating duality of Eddie Albert's persona. Eddie Albert's personality has an intriguing dualism. He frequently played characters on TV who were the picture of composure and reason, such as Oliver Wendell Douglas in Green Acres, who was steady and reasonable. But in reality, he was a committed and passionate man. He was a vocal supporter of social concerns, especially human rights and the environment. He was much more captivating because of this blend of his calm on-screen persona and his intense off-screen persona. This equilibrium attracted people to him and gave his public persona depth and intrigue. A career built on overcoming stereotypes. In addition to defying expectations in his performances, Eddie Albert also questioned prevailing prejudices. As an actor in the 1950s and 1960s, he was frequently chosen for parts that allowed him to show strength and vulnerability, qualities not typically emphasized in men at the time. One may view Albert's career as a continuous endeavor to reinterpret what it meant to be a leading man. He frequently opted for parts that examined nuanced human experiences rather than portraying a stereotypical hero. His success and the long-lasting effects of his career were significantly influenced by his capacity to defy expectations. Eddie Albert's health struggles. Eddie Albert faced numerous personal health issues during his lifetime. His career was occasionally in danger of being derailed by a string of operations and health issues. Albert persevered in working far into his senior years despite these obstacles, overcoming health problems to be involved in the entertainment industry. His persistence was demonstrated by his ability to endure despite his condition. Many were inspired by Albert's ability to endure hardship in his personal and professional life. and his strength and tenacity were never more apparent than in his last years. The longevity of his Hollywood impact. Eddie Albert's Hollywood impact extended beyond television, despite his most famous performance being in Green Acres. He collaborated with some of the best actors of his era and starred in several landmark motion pictures that helped to define the motion picture business. His career continued to flourish long after many of his contemporaries had gone into obscurity because of his ability to adjust to shifting cinematic environments, whether it was the switch from black and white to color or from film to television. Albert's tenacity and capacity to remain relevant across changing eras are demonstrated by his lasting influence on Hollywood. The rare blend of humor and heart. Eddie Albert's ability to combine humor and sincerity distinguished him from other era actors. Albert had a talent for giving his characters nuance and warmth, whether in comedy parts like Green Acres or more somber dramatic roles. He knew comedy could be a vehicle for genuine emotion, and he frequently employed humor to humanize and endear his characters. He was one of the most adored actors of his generation because of his extraordinary ability to make people laugh and cry simultaneously. If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon